What is up, my friends and fellow BusyBees? I am super fired up. I just got back from a furniture pickup from someone in our neighborhood who was like, hey, I have this coffee table that nobody wanted. Do you want it? And I picked it up, and it is a solid teak mid-century coffee table. Definitely some damage to the top, but nothing substantial. I was like, is this too good to be true? What's the catch? So anyways, I was on a high driving home and I was like, good time to record. So as you may already know, one of my values in life and in business is transparency, which is why I always like to bring my no BS approach to the podcast when talking about what has worked and what has not worked when I've tried it in my business. I see no issue in sharing what I've learned so that you can potentially save yourself the wasted time and energy that I expelled, because we're all friends here. There is plenty of room in the space for all of us. So today, upon reflecting on my 3.5-ish years doing this work, I came up with 5 mistakes that you may be making in your furniture painting and refinishing business. Mistakes that, if you're making them, you can easily switch up if they also aren't working for you and try something new to get you on the right path to success. So if any of these ring true to you, just know it's not the end of the world. I find a lot of things in business are trial and error, seeing what sticks. Something that works for me might not work for you, or vice versa, depending on your location, just depending on the fact that we are two very different people with very different clientele, probably. So as I always say, take everything I say with a grain of salt. So the first mistake that you may be making is not having a website. And this is something that I see a lot from my coaching and consulting clients, and I've seen a lot in the bootcamp and online course that I run, teaching people how to start a side hustle and improve their furniture painting and refinishing business. A lot of people do not have a website, and no shade if you do not, it's okay. It may be that you had thought about it and figured that it wasn't a big deal because you have, all your pieces are posted on whatever app you're trying to sell them on, and you post all your work on Instagram, so there's a nice portfolio of your work there. And while that's great for social media purposes, there's a couple holes that I'd like to poke in your theory. The first being, not everybody's on Instagram. Your ideal clients may be, but you also maybe haven't thought about who your ideal client is. And the reality is, there's a huge world past Instagram as well. Not to mention the fact that if you come across someone in your real life, in your day-to-day life, not online, and they ask for a business card or they ask what your website is so they can go and check out your work, and you ask them just to look at your profile on Instagram, number one, it just takes away a bit of the professionalism of everything and the legitimacy of the business as a whole. And again, that person might not be on Instagram and they might be like, okay, cool. And then, you lost a potential customer. Now, I don't think it needs to be a super complex or convoluted website. There are plenty of website providers out there that are very low cost, maybe even some that are free. But having essentially a landing page, if nothing else, with a portfolio of your work and any relevant details that someone who is looking to find somebody that does what you do or wants to be a customer of yours specifically would be interested in knowing. So they'd want to see examples of your work. They would want to know how to work with you. They would want to know how to contact you. They would want to know where you're located, things like that you can have readily available, easy to find, easy to read, ideally aesthetically laid out. Is going to help you for all of those reasons, and also it's going to make you much more findable online as well. So if this is something you have not considered previously, hopefully I just put a bug in your ear. The next mistake you may be making in your furniture upcycling business is not paying attention to your margins, which is also something that I see a lot of. And it's something that I was kind of doing at the beginning. I've always been very aware of how much I purchased my pieces for, how much I was putting into them cost-wise in terms of materials and paint and things like that, but I was never paying attention to the profit margins specifically or the time spent on the pieces. And these are things that you want to consider, especially if you are hoping to one day be able to go full-time or make this a very official business. You want to make sure that the work that you are putting in is worth the amount of money that you're receiving in return for that item. And while I can understand if you are just doing this as a hobby, or it's just maybe something that you do that's very therapeutic and you really enjoy doing, and then you want to get it out of the house and you don't want to have to house it for a long time so that you can move on to the next piece if you have small spaces. Like, I know there's a lot of little details that can impact anyone's circumstances. However, if you want to be treating it like a business, you got to be looking at those profit margins, and you want to make sure that they are decently high profit margins. Like over 70% is your ideal for any kind of successful business or any business that's going to continue. I try to aim for 80% on average, which then also gives me a little bit of leeway if I end up negotiating with somebody who's interested but wants to play that game on Facebook Marketplace, that fun game. Just love a good negotiator on there. So anyways, you need to be paying attention to your margins if you're treating this like a business. I've talked in previous episodes about different ways that I pay attention to the numbers, the software that I use, and the periodic check-ins that I do on the business and all the not so fun parts of it. So if you're interested, go back and listen through the podcast episodes and you'll learn a little bit more about that. Or, if you're interested, you can join the next cohort of Refinish Your Future, which is my online course teaching people how to run a profitable side hustle and business selling their painted and refinished furniture. But anyways, that's just a little plug in passing. The third mistake that you may be making, and I know for a fact a lot of you are also doing this too. Let's just say all of these are things that a lot of people do, so don't feel bad if any of these pertain to you and you're like, oh shit, I'm being called out. Like, a lot of people are doing this, so maybe I'll just stop saying that for every single one, I guess. Is not highlighting the fact and letting people know that you are a business in your listings of furniture for sale. Listen, I'm a bit of a no bullshit person, if you haven't figured that out yet, and I'm like that in my real life as well. I'm pretty honest, I'm very blatant, I'm a little bit blunt, I don't like to hurt anyone's feelings, but I also don't like to overly sugarcoat things, and I don't do things just to do them, if you know what I mean. Which is why friends come to me for advice and, real talks, because they want to be talked to like a human and like an adult. And I do that because I want people to do that with me as well. So I'm going to do it to you here and now, even though you didn't consent to it. Turn this off if you don't want to hear some real talk. If you are running a business, you need to let people know that you are a business. They will not treat you as such unless you let them know. And that is going to require putting up some boundaries and having some boundaries with yourself as well. But you need to be letting people know that this is a business, because they are not going to want to pay the costs that you may be listing your prices at if they think that it's just a piece that was sitting around your house for years and years and years and you've been using it and putting wear and tear on it and then you listed it for sale. You need to be highlighting the fact that this piece is newly refinished. You need to be highlighting the specific products that you use that are made for furniture refinishing, for long durability, for a lasting finish, and showing that you know your shit. You want people to look to you as an expert, and so that they feel that they are purchasing something that was expertly done, because that's going to justify it in their mind, and they're going to want to support you as a small business owner. A lot of people, we all have it, this imposter syndrome, but you can't let that lead your choices in business, because it's not going to get you very far. It's going to keep you thinking really small and sheepish, and then you're going to think that this isn't succeeding and I shouldn't be doing this, but it's not because of the work that you're doing. It's not because, you just can't make it in this world. It's because you're not leaning into what you really are, which is a business owner, which is a furniture refinisher, and which is someone who knows their shit. So I want you to be putting that in your listings, and I want you to sit back and notice the difference of the inquiries that you get, of the less amount of people trying to negotiate and offering you $50 for something you have listed for $600. All of these little annoyances will go away when people realize that you are a business, you are trying to meet your upfront costs, you're trying to get things covered. People are much more understanding of that, so I don't want you shying away from it anymore, okay? Because I care about you and I want you to succeed, and that is why I say the hard things that some people won't say. I'm sorry if you're hurt. I love you so much. Okay, moving on. The fourth mistake that you might be making in your furniture flipping side biz or full-time hustle is not having a custom email domain. And while I do think that this bugs me more than the average person, it bugs me because I worked in a business environment for a long time and I know the level of legitimacy that it adds to you as a business owner. And I know for me, when I receive emails of invites to collaborate or working with brands or different inquiries, I look at the people's email, I look at the email domain. And what I mean by email domain is at gmail.com. That's just a regular email domain, but at MelDidItHerself.ca, that's a custom email domain. I pay for it. It doesn't cost as much as people think it does. I'm assuming that people think it's pretty expensive and that's why they don't do it, or it's confusing. It's not. It's super straightforward. And it just truly adds such a layer of legitimacy to you as a business owner. It allows you to then have multiple staff who will be able to work out of your email domain if that is your intention one day. You can have a general inquiry inbox, which is info@meldiditherself.ca, and I could have my personal email, which would be mel@meldiditherself.ca. Gives you so much more options, keeps everything separate for all of your business items, which I highly recommend, even if you don't have a custom email domain. But if you're going to make a separate one, just get a custom one, okay? All of these little things, yes, some of them require a little bit of upfront cost, but that's going to make you really work for it and make you work harder, more consistently for it because you know you've put money behind it. There's a cost involved in pursuing the thing, and that's what makes us really lean in and try harder. I think, at least, I know for me it's a much more motivating factor because I don't want to piss my money away. And it also helps with your mindset of thinking I am legit, this is a legit thing, a legit business. Again, that imposter syndrome, it's never going to go away, so don't use that as an excuse. But do the things that you can do to get you closer to where you want to be. And one day you're just going to wake up and realize that you're there. Get a custom email domain, start with that. And the final mistake that you may be making is spending way too much time posting on social media without any set purpose or particular strategy behind it. And now this isn't relevant if you are someone who potentially isn't trying to have a business painting and refinishing furniture. You just do it as a hobby. You're just trying to share what you do online. Or perhaps you're trying to actively pursue monetization on a certain platform. But even then, I would recommend a strategy in doing so. But anyways, that's not part of this. But if you are trying to grow your business locally, or you are trying to grow more widely because you can offer shipping and you're just trying to sell your upcycled furniture pieces, I recommend putting some purpose and strategy behind your posting on social media because you will find that you'll get a lot more results for much less output. Because you could endlessly post on social media and that's fine and that's great. I'm sure your followers appreciate all the time and effort they see you putting in. But if at the end of the day you're trying to make money and you're trying to make money from selling your furniture, you're going to want to A, target people who are willing to buy that furniture, and B, probably spend your time refinishing that furniture more than sitting on Instagram or on TikTok or on Pinterest or on Facebook all day trying to put together a reel and working in their annoying editing softwares. And this kind of strategy might be something that's helpful to talk through with somebody else, somebody who knows how to put one of those together or understands the different elements that go into it and how to keep you on track with that. Maybe you already know those things and you just need to dedicate some time for yourself to think about it. But putting that effort in is going to declutter things and organize things in your own brain and also help put some structure and some intentionality behind your presence on social media. And so you won't feel like you're always behind and running around like a chicken with its head cut off, trying to think of something to post and then I should be posting the next day and this and that. It's probably using up more brain space than you're actually realizing. And one way to avoid that is to put some strategy behind it. And something that you may not know about me, I love little motivational messages. They always get me fired up, and I keep a running list of ones that are especially catchy or speak to me in the Notes app on my phone. So I end every podcast episode with one that I've noted down over the years in hopes that you leave our time here each week feeling inspired, feeling motivated, and feeling like you are ready to take on whatever comes your way this week. So this week's Mel's motivational message comes from a podcast I was actually listening to earlier today when I was walking the dog, which is called Creator Science by Jay Clouse. very good podcast for anyone who's aiming to be a content entrepreneur, content creator, has really good insight and does a lot of interviews with very successful people in the content entrepreneur space. I don't remember who he was talking to, some guy on YouTube or something, but they were talking about the fact of all this trial and error that you end up doing in business and your reactions to that failure and how that can essentially make or break you. So they said, if you fail and respond the right way, you win. And if you win, you win. So when you're presented with something that you are trying out in your business and it doesn't go as planned, or you feel like a failure, or you completely screw it up or whatever it may be, you then have the option to think of how you want to handle that. You could respond the right way by, acknowledge your feelings, acknowledge that that sucked, and then thinking of how can I pivot, how can I adapt, how can I change things up and try it again next time, or maybe I don't try this again and I have something I can do instead, and you figure out a way to handle it that way. Or you can respond the wrong way and you can have a pity party and you can get depressed and think like, fuck this, what am I doing this for? And get all down on yourself. And then you lose, essentially, because nobody's getting anything from that, including yourself. So if you fail and you respond the right way, then that's a win in and of itself. Even if the thing that you did was a quote-unquote failure, your response to that being a winning response is a win, so you can at least feel confident and positive in that and knowing that you have control of that, especially when you're dealing with these things and these business decisions and the results that you may not have control over. Having that little bit of control in your response to it may be the thing that helps give you the small enough boost that you need to keep going and to try something new. And if you try the thing and it's a blatant success and it goes amazing, then you're winning as well. So keep that in mind in business, in life, however that speaks to you this week as you move forward. But if you fail and respond the right way, you win. And if you win anyways. I hope it helps you get through your week. All right, that's it for now. I appreciate your time and I will catch you guys next week.